All right, so welcome back. Let's finish out this section. Section what? Section 3.4. Okay, and I am going to try to erase this mess. All right, let's try to calculate how much you would be paying for the next 30 years. Notice here, if you make a payment every month for 30 years, that's 360 months, okay? In other words, this house is all yours as long as you pay this much money plus fees for the next 360 months. That's all it takes. Yeah, right. No problem, right? Okay, so how much are you all together paying all together for the next 30 years? That's a pretty easy question because this is just your payment every month, right? This is $2,727.87. You multiply this by 12. That's how much you're paying every year. And you multiply this by 30. This is a simple arithmetic question. Or you can just take this money and multiply that by 360. You realize over the course of the next 30 years, you will be paying $982,033. I'm sorry, $982,033.20. Almost $1 million you will be spending to borrow $600,000. Okay, so what is the difference? Where is the difference coming from? The difference between your total payment and your the amount of money you are borrowing. Okay, so this is your total payments. This is how much money you're paying all together if you just add them up together. Oh, sorry. And then you are going to subtract how much money you borrowed, which is 600,000. The difference is 382,033 cents and $20. This is your total interest paid. Did you get that? Yes. In order to buy this house, you have to borrow $600,000. And even at the modest interest rate of 3.6%, which definitely is not a high rate, you know, if you qualify with good credit history, you can get 3.6% easily, even today. You will end up paying close to $400,000 in interest alone. Okay, so that money goes to the bank, not to your house. So that's the fortunate reality or unfortunate reality. Fortunate for the bank, unfortunate for you, the borrower. It's the unfortunate reality of compound interest. Remember what I said earlier? The power of compound interest works for you if you save and works against you if you borrow and if you take out a loan. All right, now this next point, I think this is kind of enlightening, and I want you to be able to figure this out. Suppose that you have 15 years have passed, okay? And so this is a 30-year loan, and halfway through, now you are in the middle of your career, 15 more years to pay for your house, and so you should be half done paying for this house, right? The original amount was 600,000. So have you paid back 300,000 because you're halfway through? And the answer is no, because that's not how compound interest works. Okay, so let's find the remaining loan balance. Have you paid off half of the $600,000 you borrowed? The answer is no, as I said. How do you do that? Okay, well, here's the way to calculate this. All right, you have 15 years have passed, so 15 more years. And that is half of 360 payments. That's 180 payments left. What you do is, this is where you borrowed, this is where you bought, and this is 15 years, okay? And what you have to do is to bring all of your future payments, each of them is $2,727.87. Bring all of these 180 payments in the future back to this point, which is 15 years into the paying off the mortgage. All right, so how do you do that? Well, we had a formula, right? How do you calculate this? That's how I started this section. You have a nice formula for P, which is D times, and this is that same big old fraction, 1 minus 1 plus R over K minus KT all over R over K. All right, so this is what you have to do. In this case, it's 2727.87 multiplied by 1 minus, remember what the interest rate was? It's 0.3% per month. So this is 1.003 raised to the, this is negative 180. Now, why is it? Because you have 180 payments in the future. Okay, so now I am not bringing this all back, 360 payments back to figure out how much your principal is. At this point, the principal, this is how much money is yet to be paid back, and that is this amount divided by 0.003. Okay, are we okay with this? I want you to know this is how you apply that formula. Let's go. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and calculate that amount. All right, so what do I get? I have 2727, but I'm going to wait until the last minute to do that. All right, so the first thing I have to do is to calculate the numerator, the top of the fraction, 1 minus, okay? Again, my calculator knows that the exponentiation takes precedence, so it's 1.003 raised to the 180 minus, that's 1.003 raised to the negative 180th power, and then I subtract that number from 1. Okay, as I enter this, I will see the top or the numerator of that big fraction. This number doesn't mean much, so don't worry about that. Then you divide it by 0.003 rate per period, R over K, and that is that entire fraction. Okay, now I am going to multiply this by the amount of monthly payment, 2727.87. What is that? All right, so this gives me the balance. This is the amount of my future payments brought to the current point with 15 years remaining. Let's go back to our notes. All right, what was the answer? 3,000. Sorry, no, not 3,000. 378,974.32. All right, so if you naively thought that just because this is halfway point, you have already paid, back half of the mortgage, which is 300,000, and you only have 300,000 to remain to be paid, you are wrong. You have almost $380,000 to pay back, even at this very low interest rate of 3.6% annual every month. I mean, 3.6% compounded monthly, which is 0.3% every month. Okay, now this is terrible, right? Who is this evil person who came up with this calculation? Well, nobody actually did. I mean, this is just the way mathematics works, okay? So if you enjoy saving money because of compound interest, this is equally mathematical, and we'll have to take that as a reality, okay? The good thing is the interest you pay is at the present anyway, tax deductible if it is your first and your primary house of residence. And so there are lots of difficult, various factors involved in buying a house. I mean, you do spend a lot of money, over $380,000 buying a house, but after 30 years, that's yours, as opposed to renting a apartment for the next 30 years, because then you pay a high rent every month, and at the end of 30 years, you have nothing, no equity, no home. So is it worth it? Probably not. And so you need to be wise, okay, in saving money. And by the way, if you get just a slightly lower interest rate, instead of 3.6%, maybe let's say you get 3%, the number of dollars you pay for your interest is going to be significantly low. And so that's how you can save tens of thousands of dollars. Or if you go ahead and decide if you can afford a 15-year mortgage, of course, the monthly payment will be higher, because you are trying to pay off the loan in 15 years rather than 30 years. But your monthly payment is not going to double. And the total interest you pay is going to be probably hundreds of thousands of dollars cheaper. This is how you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars. You see, you should be happy that you signed up for this 3-unit class for which you spent about $150 maybe. I'm telling you how to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. All right, before we go, let's do one more thing. Maybe this is more real to you because you may not be buying a house or a car at the moment. Maybe you're buying something less expensive, like a speaker system. You go to a nice car stereo place or electronic store, like the one with the blue and yellow in the corner, and you say, wow, this speaker system is good. $300? I can't afford it. I go to college. And then the store clerk comes to you and say, oh, no, you know what? You can afford that. I mean, like, look, we have this system. We have a credit. Can you pay like $11 a month? You say, well, yeah, that's like, a couple of lattes every month. Sure, I can do that. All right, great. So you pay 3 years. Every month you pay $11.30 every month for the next 3 years. And this is yours. You say, great. You buy it. You enjoy it. This great speaker system. Now, is it worth it? Well, let's try to figure out how much you paid for this, right? Because, I mean, oh yeah, by the way, you don't need to know how to calculate this if you are interested in this. I calculated this for you already using that formula above. If you want to verify this, you don't have to for this question because I'm giving you this number. But if you want to verify this, you can do 1130 plus 1 minus. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you the and this is intentionally in fine prints because anytime they give you information, they have to give you this information of APR, but they don't want to because 21% sounds like an extremely high interest rate. But that's what stores often charge, or sometimes credit card companies often charge if you do not pay attention to their fine print. All right, so what you're doing is 1 plus 0.21, that's 21% divided by 12. Okay, and then you raise it to the power of what? This is 3 years, 12 months to a year, that's negative 36. 36 payments is what you have to make, right? And then you divide this by 0.21 divided by 12. This is what you have to calculate to get the amount of the loan. And I want to tell you, this is almost exactly $300. Okay, that's how I used this formula to calculate this 1130. So for this particular problem, you do not need to do this because I did this for you. Okay, understand that? And many times I will give this information because what I'm interested in for this course is not that you calculate, you be able to calculate this complicated number or to be able to use this complicated equation. Okay, what I'm interested in is for you to figure out, given this information, can you figure out how much, is this a good deal? Can you figure out how much you're paying on your interest? Yeah, that part is easy because the total payments is 1130, and how many payments are you making? 12 per year and 3 years, right? So you multiply 11.3 by 36 and you get $406.80. This is how much you will end up paying the store or whoever is letting you borrow the money to buy this speaker system. Now, the speaker itself is $300. What happened to that $106.80? That happens to be the profit made by the lender. Okay, so in other words, whoever is giving you this thing, maybe that electronic store, has a financial or a credit service, and by charging you 21% annual percentage rate for the next 3 months, even if this sounds like a reasonable amount for every month, you end up paying $106.80 extra on top of the price of the speaker. Now, this happens to be, divide this by 300. Okay, so this is 35.6% of the price of the speaker system. In other words, you were willing to pay. You didn't know that, but when the clerk showed up, a smiling clerk that would shake your hand and smile and be really nice to you, that person was telling you, look, are you willing to pay 35.6%, close to 36% more than the retail price of this speaker system? And when you agreed and signed this credit or signed this loan, you basically say, yeah, I am willing to pay 36% more for this speaker system because I like it, right? And so this happens a lot. Okay. Now, if you enjoy this speaker system, fine, I love it. Okay. But remember how much you're paying on top of the speaker if you do this. All right, I think you are much more financially wise than maybe an hour ago or 2 hours ago, and you should be able to answer all of these questions. Make sure you look at your notes. You can use these formulas as you do these problems on quiz for section 3.4. Show your work so that you can study these later. And once you have the answers, go to the online quiz for section 3.4 and get everything right within 3 attempts. All right, we have one small section left in chapter 3, and that's it. So until you come back to study section 3.5, I wish you will have a great day, and thank you for paying attention. Have a great day.